This episode of Sea is the New Land was produced for Port City Futures.
Venice Lagoon is the oldest lagoon in the world. The lagoon is a not stable balance between forces from the earth and forces from the sea. If you leave a lagoon like that, or becomes land or becomes sea. One of the two wins.
In June 2019, a 65,000-ton cruise ship collided into the central wharf of Venice. The MSC Opera lost control and crashed into a dock and tourist boat, injuring 2 passengers.
Well, we don't have to get off the boat.
Hold on.
Hold on, it's going to pier.
A month later, the cruise ship Costa Deliziosa entered Venice Central Canal despite the adverse weather conditions and almost crashed into another monumental area.
In August happened that a big cruise ship of Costa Crociere decided to go in terrible weather. There was a very, very strong wind blowing from the south, so blowing from the lagoon, and this very strong wind pushed on the side of the cruise ship.
Tommaso Cacciari, a Venetian activist, witnessed the near tragedy.
A cruise ship is about 60 meters high, 180 to 100 meters long. So imagine this great iron wall that gets all the wind, and so the ship moved towards the city. Went very, very close to the city, went very, very close to a yacht, 2 public transport boats that were full of people in that moment that nearly crashed against the ship. The most terrible thing was the conversation that came out between the captain of the Costa Crociere ship and the officer of the maritime authority. And was the maritime authority that was asking, do you need another safety boat? And the captain said, no, we're okay. Are you sure you don't want another safety boat? No, it's okay. And this is terrible because you see how the cruise company are stronger than the maritime authority. A maritime authority should say, you need another safety boat. You need other 2 safety boats. You need to wait, no? But public authority is asking to a private company, what do you want? Are you sure you don't need? So the safety of the city is in the hands of the captain of a cruise boat that is just employee of a big private company.
Con la costa vi ridomando, avete bisogno di un quarto rimorchiatore? Siamo a posto col Costa, al momento il vento è sceso e al momento tutto tranquillo per il momento. Comunque manteniamo una velocità leggermente più alta per un governo migliore, visto che comunque c'è ancora vento. Ok comandante, quindi mi conferma che non vi serve il quarto rimorchiatore? No, confermo, va bene così, la ringrazio.
These ships are thought to cross the seas and not cross medieval small city. And so if in the middle of the sea blows a strong wind from your side and you move of 50, 100, 200 meters, it's not important. But if you move 100 meters while you cross the city is very, very dangerous. And that's one of the points that we say. Cruise ships are not safe.
Tommaso has been part of No Big Ships since the beginning. The committee was created 9 years ago by a small group of local residents worried about the large ships crossing the fragile Venice lagoon. As the risks and damaging impact increase, the group has become a solid citizens' movement.
There were actions that took place already in 2011, 2012, but it was after the Isola del Giglio incident that the movement established. So it was formally founded, and in 8 years a lot of things changes.
Marta Sottoriva is an active member of the No Big Ships Committee.
The factual participation is about around thousands of people for demos. The biggest one was last year, in 2019, after the incident in San Basilio. The cruise ship crashed against the dock. Luckily, no one died, but it was really almost a tragedy because it crashed right in the Giudecca Channel, so in the city center, basically. It was said that 100 meters before, and it would crash into a supermarket and to the historical monuments. So that incident was like a wake up for many people. There were 10,000 people that participated to the demonstration, as well as part of the establishment, many politicians as well, which was really interesting because even representatives of the big ship part, people that always promoted big ships, that always said they are good for the economy, good for the city, never questioned ships and actually went for that type of economy, basically needed to say that, lying, basically saying they were always on the side of citizen, but that was a huge thing.
Are big cruise ships good for the city's economy? A paradigmatic question to ask in pandemic times. Professor Tattara, economist at the Ca' Foscari University, has shown how the costs of cruise activity are much larger than the benefits. This imbalance is accompanied by a distribution problem. While a large part of cruise sector income is concentrated in a few economic categories, such as tour operators, all citizens bear the costs without choosing to. Professor Tattara identifies the behavior of cruise ship companies and port operators as free riders.
Now, free riding is a market failure that occurs when those who benefit from resources of public good, such as public roads, hospital, and any other public good, or services of a communal nature, do not pay them or underpay them. Free riders are a problem because while not paying for the good, either directly through fees or tolls or indirectly through taxes, they may continue to access or use it. So the good, that is in our case the town of Venice, is overused and degraded. Now, cruise activity represent a free riding because they don't pay for the cost they provoke mooring in Venice. Actually, when a ship moves, the company pays mooring fees, disembarkment fees, wastage disposal, etc., but they don't pay for significant costs, which are pollution. Air pollution is the main problem, damage on the Venice canals, to the displacement of a huge mass of water in narrow canals, because of the risk of accidents and all that it entails. Damage or this risk is so huge and so incommensurable that the balance, if you balance the cost against the advantage, of course, the cost is so much bigger than any advantage you can have. We have a town that is overwhelmed by tourism, so if you make an additional flow of tourism, you have a cost, you don't have a revenue. It is very concentrated. It's concentrated during the weekends, where the town is much overwhelmed by tourism flows.
According to Tattara, cruise sector benefits bear little for the local territory. Large ships are refurbished by global logistics. The only real local benefit is jobs, even if relatively, as they tend to be seasonal and precarious. The instability of these jobs is particularly visible during a pandemic. The cooperative Portabagagli del Porto, the luggage handlers at Venice cruise port, has been strongly affected by COVID. Antonio Velleca is the cooperative spokesman.
It's a really hard period because we are not working since November 19. So it's really hard to pay the bills. It's really hard to motivate the workers to stay calm, to wait. The most difficult thing now is to know when we will start again.
The Cooperativa Portabagagli del Porto di Venezia is one of the oldest work organization in Venice. It was established in the 1937, and now we have 38 employees. But normally during the cruise season, we arrive at about 150 employees. 36 are the permanent employees, and the other are season employees. 50% of them are part-time. Our economy is based on the number of passengers, so more passengers for us is better. But we know that is not the same for the city. We can understand that, because another problem is the congestion. A lot of people in Venice start fighting against the cruise markets. We think that environmental is due to the age of the ships, because the modern ships are not so damaged for the environment. We don't want to work with the old ships. We need to work with the modern ships. They are bigger. Are they able to get inside the lagoon?
Bigger and newer ships emit less pollutant per passenger, but the ships' most damaging effects on Venice are related to their gigantism. The bigger the vessel tonnage, the deeper or larger its hull has to be. This causes a massive hydrodynamic imbalance in the lagoon. For receiving the increasingly gigantic vessels, it is also necessary to dig the canals, risking damage to its natural ecosystem and the city-built environment, triggering more frequent high tides and accelerating erosion.
The biggest, the newest ship of MSC was inaugurated in Barcelona, even before of the COVID pandemic. It didn't come in Venice because it's too big. So if we want those ships, we have to cut away a part of the city because there's not enough space for the ship to turn around. The port of Miami, that it's not managed by radical environmentalist activists, made a port offshore for reasons opposite of the environmental issues, because they say if we want the last generation ships that are bigger and bigger, we have to build a port that can receive these ships. And the traditional port next to the city, inside the city, cannot. It's not possible physically. In fact, the last ship of MSC already cannot come in Venice because it's too big.
Naval gigantism aims at maximizing profits. It is obvious that such industry cannot determine the model of a unique and fragile city like Venice. Despite the clear incompatibility of these ships with the lagoon, no significant political decisions have been made. Why? What is the relationship between the port, the city, and the industry?
In 9 years, they did not decide nothing. And while protests came bigger and bigger, while accidents became one after the other, as the city and the port literally broke down. No, Venice is a city that was born on the sea, and the relationship between the city and the sea is the essential of Venice. Venice is a port. No, but at a certain point there has been a breakdown. The ships became bigger and bigger and bigger. It's not the ships that's adapting to the city, to the lagoon, but it's the lagoon and the city that has to adapt to the ships. Political institutions are just so weak in front of the power of these cruise companies.
Venice Port Authority is a public institution with the commercial port and the passenger port divided according to function. Control of the passenger port was given in concession to a financial holding company created by the Port Authority in 1997, Venice Terminal Passengers, or VTP. In 2016, a large number of VTP stocks were bought by Veneto Sviluppo, a financial company 51% owned by the regional government and the rest by banks. Immediately after the sale, Veneto Sviluppo sold 48% of its stock to Venezia Investimenti, a company created by the cruise operators MSC, Costa, Royal Caribbean, and Global Lehman. These financially shape-shifting operations were carried out legally, though kept out of the public eye. The result is that the public passenger terminal has been taken out of public control. This conflict of interests exposes the breaking up of city and port, and also might explain political immobility.
What is moving right now is interest that wants the ships still in the lagoon, going through the Malamocco channel, the oil channel, through Porto Marghera, so still in the lagoon. Some people, some interest that want an harbor built at the mouth port of San Nicolò. It's the so-called the Piccoli Duferco project. And then there's people that are pushing for an offshore port, but there's no definite project right now for that. So the people that are pushing for ships to enter through the oil channel into Porto Marghera are especially our mayor and some interests at the local level, because our mayor has land, so he has every interest to speculate in that area because it's virgin land. Other parties that are pushing for Fusina. The problem is this is really detrimental. The compromise that they found with companies, with the cruise ship companies, was that to excavate the Vittorio Emanuele channel, which brings at the Marittima. Excavating the Vittorio Emanuele channel would mean dig in the lagoon and take out around 3 million of tons of meter cubers of toxic mud, because they belong to the area that have never been cleaned by the Porto Marghera, the factories, the industry, the chemical industries leaks. They can't move that. They can't by law. So what I've been trying for years was to change the law in order to declassify the toxicity of muds, in order to excavate that and take the ships to the Marittima. We still don't know up to this date how they are thinking to manage the traffic of both the commercial harbor with the cruise ship harbor.
The 30 years long concession to VTP ends in 2024. The project of a new port would require a public international concourse, which put at risk the company's monopoly on cruise ships in Venice.
We have a common denominator, big ships out of the lagoon. So that allows us to welcome different voices, from regular common citizens that don't want to see the ships in the Giudecca Channel, to the radical activists that are fighting for climate justice and for which the cruise ship industry should be abolished altogether. The committee allow us to have all the in-betweens, all the different shades. Before COVID, we were fighting against an industry that was well working. Right now, because it stopped, it's becoming stronger and stronger, the need to discuss about alternatives for real. So even with the involvement of harbor workers.
How do you see Venice in 10 years?
We need to do drastic things. We need a drastic solution, and if you are not able to do that, Venice in 2 decades is going to disappear. The population and the city itself are going to disappear. It has to be radical, and it has to be really upside down. We always say that Venice is the symbol of the climate crisis because it's the first city in Europe that is going to disappear because of the consequences of global warming.
Obviously, we were fighting, and we will make every effort to change direction. I want to hope that this shock is what Venice needed to change direction. If Venice changes direction, Venice can become the most beautiful city in the world. A city where you go by foot, where you live in contact with people, a big community, as it used to be. It could be the best place to live, to work, to grow children. Venice could be, as Sergio Bettini said, Venice could become the most modern city in the world, even if it has more than 1,000 years. Because the relationship between Venice and nature, Venice and his environment, is the most modern absolute. Venice is the oldest lagoon in the world because for centuries the human activity helped the balance between earth, sea, and build the miracle that it's Venice. And this is the most modern possible relationship between a human community and its environment. Touching, continually, changing, working, modifying, but in a correct way. Not with big digging of canals, mega cruise ships, mose, not as we treated the lagoon in the last century. So Venice can really learn from this shock, build real economies based on citizenship and not on tourism, build a new relationship between its environment, and so Venice can reborn from this situation and become really the most beautiful city in the world, not to see but to live. Or we can learn nothing. In that case, Venice will definitely die. The few residents and citizens that remain there will go away. And it's an amusement park for tourists, and that's the other option. I believe that we really are in a cross point. We can get one direction or another.